What's going on, everyone? Happy Sunday to everyone. Hopefully everyone is doing well, staying safe, healthy. If you had to take a COVID test, hopefully you have tested negative. If you did test positive, I hope you have a full and speedy recovery with no long COVID issues. It is time now for the Sunday edition of the Pandemic Update for Sunday, February 11th, 2024. If you're new to my channel, this is where we do the daily pandemic update. It's the Sunday edition, which means we are going to do a little bit more in-depth look at wastewater today. You know, all the different viruses: COVID, flu, influenza, same thing, mpox, hepatitis, all these different viruses that are impacting us. We're going to take a look at them in wastewater today. But first off, we do have to do a few other things first. So if you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button down below, give this a thumbs up, and also consider becoming a member of our Patreon. That's right, we are now on Patreon. There'll be a link to that down below, and you can help support the channel and all of the work that I do. All right, starting off today, measles. We've been talking about it a lot. It seems like each week there is something somewhere where we talk about measles, and this week I think we've mentioned it several times. Well, this go around we're talking about Switzerland. Measles outbreak in Switzerland. A school has shut down, and number of cases are unknown because there's been multiple exposures, and who knows, this could lead to more cases. The school will reopen on February 19th. Keep that in mind. They just said February 19th in this article. It is currently February 11th. That's a pretty long time. So they're taking this pretty seriously, and it's something that we need to keep an eye on. Hopefully we will find out more about this. But again, in Switzerland, they are now having measles issues as well. Speaking of other viruses besides COVID, let's talk about mpox, formerly known as monkeypox. Milwaukee Health Department hosts free drive-through vaccination clinic after resident tests positive for mpox. This positive case came in a statement. They said a Milwaukee resident has tested positive for mpox on Friday, February 2nd. This is the first identified case since June of 2023. So, yeah, this is something you really have to watch out for because mpox, it still is out there from time to time. We don't always catch the positive cases. We sometimes see them in wastewater. Of course, I'm not the one that's out there catching the cases, but you get what I'm saying here, is that we don't always see Department of Health, or we don't always see people testing positive. There's cases out there. We just don't always know about them until we see it in wastewater, and then randomly, every once in a while, one of them shows up in the news, like this time in Milwaukee, where someone did actually get tested for it. It's not very easy to get tested for mpox because they don't always believe you. They think, oh, well, you need to go see a dermatologist. Remember the outbreak a couple years ago where there was a lot of cases popping up? A lot of people were being told it was something else, and turns out that they may have had mpox. Well, yeah, it's not always easy to get tested, so we don't always know about the cases, so be careful out there. All right, moving on to this now. I tweeted this poll out earlier today, not that long ago. We're going to look at it today. We're going to look at it again tomorrow as well because there's still 22 hours left in the poll. Just a simple question. Since the COVID pandemic started, do you notice more people coughing than pre-COVID? And I want to refresh this because I want you to see some of the responses. 471 votes already. I think that's a lot of votes. I tweeted it at 1:50 p.m. Eastern Time. It's 3:37 p.m. right now. 93.4% say yes. That's a heck of a lot of people saying yes. 6.6% say no. Let's go down here. Absolutely. It's that deep, raspy cough that won't let go. I notice more people with hoarse or groggy voices. I mean, there are so many different comments here. Someone here, oh, look at this one. All the time, coughing, clearing throats, trouble swallowing. Yep. Guess what? We hear that on TV. Do you watch TV? Do you watch news? Do you watch the national news? Do you watch the cable news programs? Have you watched C-SPAN or any of these programs? How often do you hear someone clearing their throats? I'll give you another good example. In recent classical music recordings, now I listen to classical music sometimes. You know, it helps you wind down. It helps you calm down. And in some of the more recent performances, when they record these, I hear a lot of people in the background coughing constantly, or clearing their throat, or those loud, annoying coughs. I mean, these are classical pieces. This is, it's quiet, please. You can't be making any noise, but it happens because coughing nowadays is just off the charts. I can't even imagine if I went to back to church again, how much coughing I would hear. Matter of fact, I watched it live stream recently, and in the background, it was a full house, and in the background, yeah, I heard a lot of coughing. All right, moving on now. Let's take a look at today's air quality values. Hopefully, we will have some better news for you today, but we're not going to on the air quality front, and you'll see that in just a moment. Here in the Mid-Atlantic, it's slightly better, but there is still some yellow, and it's kind of a trade-off. While it's slightly better there, let's go out to the West Coast. You might have just saw it briefly here. There's a little bit more moderate air quality starting to show up in the Pacific Northwest, and look at the Sacramento area and San Francisco area. Yeah, not doing too good in California today. Look at Salt Lake City. There's a few bad air quality spots there as well. And right along the Gulf Coast, you have to be mindful. There's this system. It's going to be pulling up a lot of moisture out of the Gulf of Mexico. That could cause some bad air quality as well. Speaking of that, I do have another channel, Climate Data Report, where we did do today's video talking about the snowfall totals in the Northeast. We're talking about severe thunderstorms in the South. There's already been numerous tornado warnings. I tweeted some of them on my weather Twitter account this morning, and I'm going to be doing some more tweeting on that this evening because it's pretty serious. If you want to learn more about that, subscribe to that channel down below. It's all things weather. You can see, hey, that channel's actually starting to grow, finally. That's a good thing. All right, taking a look now at Walgreens. Walgreens positivity rate this week is at 26.6%, as it does a refresh on us here. And the prior week was 27.3%. It's down slightly. Testing was down slightly. Not much we want to look at here. Here's Philadelphia yesterday for EMS calls. If you're new to the channel, we take a look at Philadelphia because, well, there's nowhere else in the country where I can get daily totals for the number of calls. They do EMS, fire, and working fires. The one we pay attention to is EMS, 725 yesterday. That's below that 800 level. Remember, this is a big city. We have a lot of people that live here. We're one of the busiest fire departments and EMS units in the city, or in the country, I should say. So, yeah, you may think, oh, 725, that's a high number. You also have to remember, there's well over 1.5 million people in Philadelphia County, and it's a busy city. So, moving on now, taking a look at what's going on, live looking at Montgomery County, Pennsylvania. Once again, we're looking at southeast Pennsylvania, not because that's where I live, because I haven't been able to find anywhere else in the country that has live CAD systems. If you know of one, please leave a comment down below. I would love to add in a public CAD system from somewhere else, maybe California, maybe Texas, maybe Chicago, somewhere up in the Northeast, somewhere in the Southeast. I would love to do it, but I just simply can't find any. All right, there are a couple respiratory calls right now. Just total EMS calls, 11. I suspect it's going to be a busy night for ambulances across the country. Why? Because it's Super Bowl Sunday. You may have taken notice, I'm wearing red here today. Sorry, San Francisco, I'm supporting the Chiefs today. Andy Reid used to be our coach here for the Eagles in Philadelphia, so I'm an Andy Reid fan. So I'm for the Chiefs today. But you know what? Good luck to either team. May the best team win. All right, let's take a look at Chester County, Pennsylvania. And Chester County, Pennsylvania, there are a few calls right now, but nothing major at this time, really. Compared to what we were seeing at the start of January, a month ago, the call volume has come down really all across southeast Pennsylvania, which I think it's probably likely similar across the country, with levels finally starting to go back down again for the viruses. But we'll take a look at wastewater in just a moment. All right, we have to take a look at a few of these hospital levels. We can see here, nationally, 77.8% of all beds are currently in use. COVID-19 makes up 2.9% of them. Influenza is 1.2% of them. And let's take a look at ICU usage on the national level. 72.6% of ICU beds are being used. 2.7% of that is for COVID. 1.5% is for influenza. Let's take a look at a few states. We'll take a look at Florida. Did we do Florida yesterday? Doesn't matter. We're going to do it again. Florida, 79% of all beds are in use. 2.9% are for COVID, 1% is for influenza. ICU, taking a look at the ICU, 74.6% of beds are currently in use, 3.1% is for COVID, 0.7% is for influenza. All right, let's also come up to Georgia. We'll take a look at this here. In Georgia, we see 81.4% of ICU beds are in use, 4% for COVID, 6.6% for influenza. Yikes, that's not good with what's going on there with the influenza. 80.1% of all patient beds are being used, 3.8% is for COVID, 2.2% is for influenza. Let's go, how about we take a look at Hawaii, shall we? What's going on in Hawaii? I'm curious. 77.6% of all beds are currently being used, 2.8% are for COVID, 0.6% is for influenza. And in the ICU, not bad at all. 64.6% of all ICU beds are being used. That is not bad. 1.5% are for COVID, 0.2% are for influenza. And while we're at it, let's take a look at Alaska. Alaska, currently 69.7% of all ICU beds are in use, 0.8% COVID, 0.7% influenza, and inpatient is currently at 78.1%. COVID makes up 2.5%, and influenza makes up 0.5%. All right, time for our wastewater bonanza. Let's spend about 10 minutes on wastewater, shall we? Starting off with Biobot. And we see here on Biobot, nationally, there was a rise ongoing this week once again with COVID levels, but I suspect that is going to turn the corner and start to come back down. Now, there's modeling that suggests that will drop. The biggest cause for that national rise was because of the Northeast. I don't think that's going to last. If it does continue on their next update, that would be a really bad sign. You can see the rest of the country, it's not dropping anymore. It's flattened to maybe slightly trying to rise in the Midwest, but again, we're not dropping right now, but within the next week, I think we're going to start to drop again. Don't hold me to that, though. If this does not change, like I just said, we have a major problem. We also need to take a look at the flu levels here. We have not done that in quite some time. Now, this, on the other hand, flu levels do sometimes go back up. Influenza A, yeah, look at that. In the Northeast, it is rising ever so slightly once again. Influenza B, look at that. Yeah, wow. In the Northeast, rapidly rising. And also rising pretty steadily in the Midwest, dropping in the South and in the West. RSV at this time is not really doing much of it. It's kind of just bouncing around at this time, so not really doing much. Can we look at Mpox on here? I'm seeing Mpox listed. We never usually click on it, though. Yeah, and they do this. Yeah, we're not going to look at Mpox on here. So let's move on now to the CDC page. And we're going to take a look at the CDC page and take a look at wastewater scan. There are definitely some places that we need to look at. Let me read what these things mean to you on the right in case you're new to my channel. News sites, they come up in white. Gray sites, these gray sites here, that means they're sites that haven't reported. And look at that. Suddenly there's a whole bunch of sites in Oklahoma, but they're not updating. Very interesting because we haven't seen anything for Oklahoma in quite some time. So news sites, they're the white ones. There's 35 of them. 0 to 19%. We like to see a lot of 0 to 19% sites because that's the lowest level for COVID. There's 43 of them. 20 to 39%. There's 150 of them at this time. That number has gone up, and as has the other one, which 0 to 19, there's 43 of them. Taking a look at this really light shade of blue, that's like right in between everything. 40 to 59%, there's 331 of them. That's down by 4%. We like to see that number down. We also like to see 60 to 79% down as well. There's 420 of those sites, and that number's down by 6%. 80 to 100%, that's the red. That's really bad. The other one's orange, this one's red. Red's the worst one. There's still 198 red sites. I hope we can get to under 10 red sites come by at some point in spring, like we did last year. So 198 of them, that's down by 10%. We like to see that number drop. All right, we have to take a few stops here before we go to wastewater scan. There's some areas that you should be concerned about. First off, let's do the I-95 corridor here. Taking a look here. Look at Atlanta. That's 85, which splits off at 95. But see, I-85 corridor, Atlanta. Then you come down to North Carolina, like Raleigh, Greensboro, Charlotte. All these areas, there's still a lot of red. Now we're meeting up with I-95, and you can see here in Virginia, coming up to D.C., Yes, there's still a lot of red. Even in New Jersey, there's still some orange and red that's ongoing. We're seeing less of that as we get up towards Boston, although there is still some red showing up here. Let's click on one of these sites. Let's see what's going on. We'll look at this at Wastewater Scan as well, because that updates more frequently for Boston. But yeah, it's still red at this time with 2.4 million population. That's not a good thing. Now we have to come south, and we have to get on a plane this time and go to Texas. Take a look at Texas here. Houston. There is just a ton of red continuing. Harris County. I'm just going to randomly click on these sites. Look at this. All these sites are rising. What is going on in Houston? And when you see something this significant as what's going on in Houston compared to other areas, you have to start thinking, is there another strain of COVID going on? Is there something different going on? Like a new variant? You just don't know, because they really seem to be going on a thing of their own right now. I mean, look at this. Every site you click on, almost every site, it's really rising, and it's rising rather rapidly. It's concerning. We may need to take a visit to Houston's. They actually have a wastewater page for Houston. I don't have that up today. We're probably going to pull that up one day this week. Dallas, you're red as well. Again, we can look at Dallas at Wastewater Scan. Continuing on here, what we cannot look at on Wastewater Scan is the Chicago area. And it's important that we take a look at Chicago, but before we do that, ooh, what's with all this red out here with what's going on? Clay, Missouri. Okay, you're rapidly rising. Yeah, I'm not liking this. Now, Jackson, Missouri, you're dropping at this time. Kansas is dropping as well, but yikes, yeah, not good to still see some red showing up there at this time. And let's see what's going on in Chicago area now, shall we? Cook, okay. Cook was dropping. This is a huge wastewater site. 1.1 million population. It was dropping, but now take a look. Starting to rise again. That's not a good thing. We don't like seeing that rise again. That's Chicago, my friends. It's a big city, one of the biggest cities out there. And yes, a few of these sites are still rising, so hey, it's something we have to watch. Wow, Lake Indiana, you are rapidly going up at this time. Don't like seeing that either. And here's some really good news. Look at Ohio. Remember when Ohio was just mostly red and some orange? Now it's hardly any red. There's a couple red sites there still, and a lot of light blue. So this is really good news for what's going on in Ohio right now. Franklin County, Ohio, has dropped significantly. This is Columbus, and you can see here it's slowed off a little bit, but it has really dropped off, and that is good to see. And take a look at St. Louis here. Finally, yes, we do get to St. Louis. 174,000 population at this wastewater site. Yikes, and it's starting to rise again. Yeah, still rising. Wow. Still rising at some of these sites. Here's one, Franklin, Missouri. That is dropping ever so slightly at this time. Now let's go out to the west coast. And I think for this, yeah, we're going to go over to Wastewater Scan. And we'll start with Wastewater Scan today on the west coast, if it comes up. Sometimes this website is slow on us, but yes, let's go out to the west coast. Let's do a couple sites here. We want to take a look at Las Vegas. As you know, it's the Super Bowl, so we want to take a look at it today. We'll look at it during the week. We're going to look at it a lot. Los Angeles, first off. Let's go to the central site in Los Angeles. And yikes, I don't like this. COVID, look at this. It was going up a little bit. Now it's starting to rapidly go up. Yeah, that's not good. It's at medium. Could go back to high if that continues. RSV, high and starting to rise again. Influenza A, look at that, starting to rise a little bit again. Influenza B is starting to drop. That's a good thing. And taking a look here, some hepatitis detection. No Mpox detections at this time. Continuing on here. Let's come up here. Let's take a look here. Let's go over to Silicon Valley, Redwood City. What's going on there? And COVID is medium and pretty much bouncing around all over the place so far. RSV, it's high and rising again. Influenza A is rising again, high. Influenza B is dropping. Hepatitis A, oh, lots of detections of that. And how about norovirus? Norovirus is medium and dropping at this time. All right, continuing on here, let's go over to Las Vegas now. Viva Las Vegas. And what is going on there? Okay, the COVID levels, they were dropping. Now they leveled off. Might even be a sign of a rise again. Medium. That's not good going into the Super Bowl. RSV is high, but has dropped some. Shows a little bit of a rise on the most recent update. Influenza A dropped, but still high and starting to rise again. Influenza B is also rising once again. And Mpox, no issues at this time. All right, continuing on here. Let's go back to Dallas area once again. We can get a more recent update. And let's take a look at this Central Dallas Wastewater site. We can see COVID high and rising, RSV high, Influenza A high, Influenza B high. It has stabled off for Influenza B. Some hepatitis detections. There was an Mpox detection back in December. All right, continuing on here. As promised, we do have to go back to the Northeast. We want to take a look at what is going on in a more real-time matter for Boston. And we can see Boston here. Yes, Boston at this time in real time is dropping. The most recent update is February 7th. It's high, but it's dropping for COVID at this time. High for RSV, but dropping. High for Influenza A, but dropping. Influenza B is also dropping. HMPV is high, and norovirus is high as well, but that is starting to drop. And Mpox, there was a detection of Mpox back on December 15th. All right, we have to take a look at Florida now. We'll just do a couple more places, and that's going to be it for today. Let's see what's going on. How about we come down to Tampa Bay, St. Petersburg. Hopefully we get some complete data. There's been a problem with that in Florida lately. St. Petersburg, high COVID levels, but dropping. And taking a look at RSV, high and starting to rise once again. Influenza A has dropped a little bit. Influenza B, look at this. Ooh, high and rapidly rising. Norovirus is high and also rapidly rising. And how about Mpox? There was a detection of that back on December 15th. And continuing on here, can't look at Miami because those sites are all chopped off. All right, we do have to take a stop now in New Orleans because Mardi Gras is coming up this week. So let's see, can we get some data here? Yes, and yikes. COVID is high and starting to rise again. RSV, early signs that it may be rising again. It is low, but look at that. See, it may be starting to rise again. Influenza A and B are high, with A dropping, and B is starting to rise again. Norovirus is, wow, rapidly rising at this time. And let's see, there was an Mpox detection on December 15th. Alrighty, folks, that does it for today's pandemic update and the wastewater update. If you like this update, give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more content like this, subscribe to my channel down below. Share this with anyone who needs to see it. And yes, we do now have a Patreon account. I mentioned this at the beginning of the video. You can sign up and become a member. I think I am going to try and add some sort of a chat feature to that. I'm seeing you can do that. And it's very inexpensive to become a member. There's just 3 different levels. You can help support all the work I do. You can help support my channel. It keeps the website going, everything on Twitter. I mean, this takes a lot of time to do all this stuff. And then I also run the other channel, which that is completely separate. And it's just very time consuming. And so I figured, you know what? Yeah, maybe I should start up a Patreon. So if you want to become a member, fine. If not, that's fine too. There'll be a link for that down below if you want to sign up for that. Thanks for watching. I will see you all again tomorrow for the Monday edition of the Pandemic Update. Until I see you again next time, stay safe. If you're going to be watching the Super Bowl or going to a party, just do the right thing. Test beforehand, mask when necessary, when you have to mask if you can, and just stay safe. I don't want to see reports tomorrow saying, oh, well, we were at a Super Bowl party this past weekend and now we tested positive. I'm hoping I don't see those comments. I'm thinking I'm probably going to see someone say that. All right, thanks for watching. I'll see you again tomorrow. Have a fantastic Sunday evening.